The second story I want to tell you is about meaning and lack of meaning at work. This started one day with a student came to visit me. His name was David. I haven't seen him for a couple of years. He was a banker. And he told me the following story. He said that he was working on some merger and acquisition project, and he worked very hard on the documentation and the PowerPoint presentation for about 2 or 3 weeks. And he was spending long nights and so on, really hard work. And the day when he finished, he mailed it to his boss, and his boss was going to present it to the group that was going to sit over the merger. And his boss wrote him 10 minutes later, said, nice job, but sorry, the merger just got canceled yesterday, and so on. Now, David thought that he did a great job. He thought his boss probably saw that he did a great job. But at the same time, he felt that there was kind of no meaning to what he was doing. He felt disappointed that this was the end of his hard work. And on the next time he started working on a new project, he couldn't help but think whether this second project as well was going to go down in the same way that the first one did. And I think this kind of gets us to think a little bit about why did David work, right? Or why do we work? And again, if we say it's just for money, David got all the money and all the compliment and so on, and his boss knew he did a good job. So what was there missing? From a practical perspective, nothing was missing, but from a motivational perspective, it is not just about money. Lots and lots was missing for David. And now again, you can ask yourself, if you were a boss and you understood that something was missing, you understood that David put so much effort into it and he needs to get more than thank you, nice job, because probably lots of things that you could do. You could imagine getting him to give the lecture to a group of people. You could imagine going over it with him. You could imagine probably doing lots of things that would all waste some of your time and will be inefficient, but they can actually create more motivation for David to continue in the future. And another way to think about it is think about mountain climbers. George Lowenstein did a beautiful paper on mountain climbing in which he analyzed lots of stories about mountain climbers. These are stories that mountain climbers write about the experience of climbing mountains. And you know what? The whole thing is miserable. Like, you read these books and you think there will be lots of words there about excitement and elation and enthusiasm. No, the whole books are just about misery. You know, climbing mountains is tough and cold, and you get frostbite, and it's hard to breathe, and the whole experience is very, very, very hard. Now, what happened? How do we reconcile this idea that mountain climbing is miserable with the observation that people spend lots of effort and energy, they don't go back. Not only that, but when they finish, they go ahead and go and do another mountain. So what it tells me is that the motivation human beings have is not about simple happiness. Simple happiness is nice, again, sitting on the sofa watching Seinfeld, but it's not everything. In reality, there's lots of other things like challenge, like completion, like achievement, overcoming adversity. Lots of things like that motivate us at least to the same degree that we are motivated by seeking pleasure. And that if we understood this whole range of desires and goals, we might have a different view of what gets people to enjoy and not enjoy work. And one of the things, of course, about mountain climbing is about reaching the peak. It turns out that not reaching the peak is an unsatisfying experience, and reaching the peak is important. And from there come the question of meaning. And this, by the way, is something that John Maynard Keynes said a long time ago, in which he says that if human nature felt no satisfaction in constructing a factory, a railway, a mine, or a farm, there might not be much investment as a result of cold calculation. And he said enterprise pretends to itself to be mainly motivated by the statement of its own prospectus. So the idea is that we think that it's all about money, but the reality is that there's much more to it, and those things create a very different feeling. So let me tell you about a few experiments that I followed up with on David's idea. And in the first experiment, I basically paid subjects to build bionicles. So imagine you came to the student center, and I paid you to build bionicles. And I paid you $3 to build the first bionicle, and I paid you $270 to build the next bionicle, and $240 to build the next one, and so on and so forth. So basically, a decreasing wages. And after each bionicle, I said, do you want to build another one? For the next one, you will get $270, $240, $210, and so on. And every time you have to decide, is the effort worth your time? Okay, so you keep on doing this. That's condition one. Condition two, we call the Sisyphic condition. And in the Sisyphic condition, what happened is you would start building the first bionicle, and when you finished, you handed it to me, and then I would ask you, do you want to build another one? And I would give you the next one. But as you were building the second one, I would take the first one apart into pieces. And then if you wanted to build a third one, I would give you back the one you constructed in the first one. Now, just to realize, in both of those conditions, there was not a huge meaning to building bionicles. In both conditions, people knew they were building bionicles. They knew that we will disassemble the bionicles later for the next participant. There was no mystery, but there was a slight difference in meaning. In the first condition, people could basically suspend disbelief that their work was useful in some way. In the second condition, this was just not possible. And the question is, what will happen to their desire to work under those two conditions? And as you might expect, people build many more bionicles. They build 10.6 bionicles in the meaningful condition and 7.2 bionicles in the Sisyphus condition. Now, we call this the Sisyphus condition, of course, based on the legend of Sisyphus, who was punished by the gods for tricking them and was condemned to basically push a rock up a hill, and the moment he ended up, the rock fell down and he had to start again. And I think this is kind of a prototypical idea for what's a meaningless work. When the moment you finish it, there's not even a sense of progression. You can imagine it's very different from pushing another rock up another hill, right? Under those conditions, you could imagine that your work is meaningful. You could feel good about it in some way. But if it's the same thing over and over and over, it's very hard to feel that there's any useful of meaning to it. I should say a couple of more things on this. One is that we also measured how much people love Legos. So we asked them, how much do you enjoy Legos? And we correlated love of Legos with how long they persisted in the task. And you would expect that people who loved Lego more will build more bionicles even when they got paid less, because after all, they enjoy it more internally. And that was the case with the meaningful condition. There was a good correlation, a good-sized correlation between love of Lego and how long they persisted in building these bionicles. In the Sisyphic condition, the correlation was basically zero. People who love Legos did not do more than the people who did not love Legos. Basically, by killing their creation in front of their eyes, we were able to suck the joy out of people's creation, and as a consequence, get no value to the meaning of labor for them. The other thing that happened is we created what we call the consultant study. In the consultant study, we asked people to predict the effect. We said, look, imagine you got paid 10% of what all the people in the meaningful condition did. You got 10% of their labor, or you got 10% of the Sisyphus condition. What do you think the effect would be? And basically everybody predicted things in the right direction. Everybody predicted that in a meaningful condition people would work harder. But what they did was they dramatically underestimate the amount that they will work harder. Basically, people thought that they will do about one more bionicle or one less bionicle. So the meaningful will be about one more than the Sisyphus. But the reality, it was more than three more. So people understand meaning, but they dramatically underestimate it. And now you can ask yourself, think about all the people working with you or for you, and ask yourself how much meaning do they have in their work, and what kind of steps could you take to provide them with more meaning, and what effect might that have?